tuning into the My Positive Perspective Internet Show today, where we feature individuals and groups who share the common goal of benefiting the local crossing community. Today's episode is brought to you by Gatorade, a great way to quench your thirst. Today's guest is Dr. Art Schmidt. So, Dr. Art, how you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Good, good. Dr. Art is the author of a book called The Man I Didn't Know. And of course, the book itself refers to your service in Vietnam, and you're coming to realize your PTSD. So maybe you talk to me about that a little bit.
Well, I had a book signing for my first book, A War With No Name.
Mm-hmm.
This woman came up to me and she said, Dr. Schmidt, why don't you write a book about the families? And I said, well, I don't think so. I said, because the first book took 10 years, I think I'm out of the book writing business. Well, I went home that night, and I marked up the cover, and I came up with the title, The Man I Didn't Know, The Stories of Wives and Families of Veterans Who Are Affected by PTSD.
Sure.
And I wrote the first chapter. Well, then about 3 months later, there was another reunion. We had a squadron reunion, and her husband was a door guard, and I was standing there doing the book signing for the first book. And I said, gee, some woman suggested that I write this book about the families. And I said, I started it, the man I didn't know. I said, but I don't know who this woman is. And she says, it's me, Marie LeDuc. Well, we got to talking to her and her husband over the course of the reunion, and found out that she had been counseling families, even though she's not a therapist as such. But anyway, I said, would you like to write a forward to a book? And she said, well, I'd love to. Well, after I got to know her, after 3 days, she had a wealth of knowledge about all the families she's been talking to. Some of the stories are just incredible. And so I said, would you like to co-author the book? And she said, well, I'd love to. She says, it's been my lifelong dream. So we put it together in a year, and we put it out, and it's been fairly successful.
Sure.
But she came down from North Carolina, and we were working on the book, and I told her in the course of just working on the manuscript, I said, I only have PTSD a little. I said, but she said, well, you either have it or you don't have it. Well, that's when I decided to get into therapy. And I've been through several therapies in various places that I've lived, and it's been a big help. But I think the most thing that's been the most therapeutic for me was writing the first book. That's the one that helped me the most.
Yeah, and then of course, many of y'all know that my book, Return from a Comatose Mind, is about my car accident and my rehab and all those things, and it does do you a lot of good to put your thoughts and your feelings and your actions down on paper, and it really gives you the impression that your life was, about helping others, and that was the main goal.
Right.
And that real quick, Hurricane Camille in 1960 was it
69.
69 was when it hit. You flew out into Hurricane Camille. How that turn happen?
I was instructing in Pensacola, flying helicopters, and Hurricane Camille hit the Gulf Coast. And we went over the next day, and it was just absolutely tragic. That particular day, I flew 3 different kinds of helicopters for various kinds of rescue missions. And when we landed, it was very hot. Of course, we didn't have the air conditioning in the helicopter.
Right.
And went down, we got below 1,500 feet. You could smell the stench of sewer and death. It was just horrible. And we evacuated about 10,000 people up to Jackson, Mississippi. And we did all day flying up and down into Mississippi, getting people out of there. And every time I see a hurricane now, I think of, and then I remember flying over trailer parks, completely flat, just gone away.
And those images, those are probably they probably contributed to your condition with PTSD that you have now, and it's probably, you assimilate those images with your images of Vietnam, correct?
Yeah, that's true. And, you know, we talked about the 3 tours. The first tour was up to Yorktown. The second tour was flying the transports. Third tour was 69-70 flying gunships. And that's the one that was, my guys was just unbelievable. A lot of funny stories. When we were living on the barges, if I made one that we did with the SEALs, and the VC would try to come down and swim down at night and try to blow us up. We throw concussion grenades over. We'd find the bodies the next morning. But we go down with the SEALs, and one of the SEAls would be down there partying on the barge, and one of the SEAls would yell skivvy check, and we'd all drop our pants, and if we had underwear on, they'd throw us off the barge, and we didn't want to do that because there's sea snakes in the water. But, then they moved us ashore and built the base and right where they had defoliated, so almost all my guys have chronic lymphatic leukemia. But the interesting thing, what they did was they built this really lavish base with nice buildings, all air conditioned, and they put the helicopter pilots out in tents on the helipad. So we went to the Vietnamese and we got crabs, and we flew the crabs out to the ship and swapped it to I gave them to the Filipino stewards. They gave us ice cream. We flew the ice cream back to the shore, gave it to the CBs, and they gave us wood, and that's how we built the house that we lived in.
Gotcha. And, you know, it was your ability to adapt to Vietnam. Really, it sounds like, and your ability to negotiate and trade with people for things that you needed and wanted, that really, you know, played a large part in your survival in the whole your Vietnam theater.
Right. Well, John McCain's father, who was the admiral in charge of Vietnam at the time, he came down to visit us, and my guy said, "Well, let's go to the Australians. We can swap with the Australians and get steak and lobster." I said, "Well, don't feed them steak and lobster. Feed them what we do. Take a plastic bag, you know, we pour water, we have spaghetti and meatballs." I mean,
right.
He's eating lobster. But a funny story about Christmas, 1969. Christmas Day, I had to fly a chaplain around to 10 bases, and they put some Christmas trees in my helicopter to deliver at the end of the day back in Saigon. And the first place I stopped, some guy one of the seamen came by, and he said, "Is that a Christmas tree?" I said, "Yeah, take a couple." So I gave away all the Christmas trees at the 10 stops that I was. When I got back to Saigon, the truck drove up, and the guy said, "Have you got any Christmas trees?" I said, I don't have any Christmas trees. All the needles are in the cockpit."
Oh yeah. Certainly I had some funny stories about Christmas and people, you know, pilots driving around dropping off rations and things to get confused. It was a very hectic, confusing time. The whole theater must have seemed like a big blur of confusion. So, realizing that's now over, and that's for us to learn from, and all those things. So, thank you for joining us, throwing me on the episode, Dr. Art.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay, and thank y'all for tuning in to My Positive Perspective, and have a great day.
On a sunny day, I feel my thoughts drift away. Only good vibes and good times living in my brain. On a sunny day, catch me lamping in the shade, feeling so fine and so high. Oh, my sunny day, still I hope all my efforts will one day pan out. But love within you'll never be without. So I roll, feeling strong and so invincible.